Okay. Clock on the wall says it's 2:59 West Coast time here in Los Altos, California. And I don't see anyone here yet, so I hope some folks will join us. And I hope people can hear me, but we don't even have anyone joining the live podcast yet. So I can't even check out to find out if my sound is working properly. I know last week I started this on the wrong Facebook page, on my personal Facebook page, and now this week I've started it on the proper one. Okay, we have one person so far. Hi, David. Can you hear me? Can you type in? Let me know if you can hear me, David. Because I'm not even sure my equipment is working here. Okay, let's see. There's something good bounced across the screen. Hi, Lisa. Can you let me know if you can hear me? Yes or no? I want to find out if my audio is working okay. Thank you, David. I do need to know if anyone can hear me, and if so, then I have a few questions here that I've set aside to answer, but I don't want to start it. Oh, Lisa says yes, that you can hear me. Okay, great, thank you. So let me just say, by way of getting us started here, that we had our Sunday morning hike. We hiked for roughly 3 hours, probably a good 3 hours, and then went for a beautiful vegan Chinese meal again afterwards. And the hike, as usual, was a wonderful experience. We had about 8 hikers. I thought maybe no one would show up today, but all of a sudden 7 people materialized, and we worked on personal relationship issues, conflicts with patients, both from the therapist side of the coin and also from the patient side of the coin. We worked on love relationship issues for some of the therapists. It was just a fabulous time. I love the hikes because it's a way to socialize with people who are being very, very genuine and open, and not kind of like at a party where you're trying to impress one another. I have tons of questions, so I'll answer 1 or 2 or 3 here until I see if I get some from the people who have joined us here. Oh, I have to like some people here. I'm going to like David and Lisa and David again and Lisa again. So I think I have an audience of 2 so far. Hopefully it will build during the week. But the first one comes from Galena, and I briefly answered this one online on the web page. I approved her comment and replied, but I thought it might not hurt to go ahead and read her question and answer it here too. She says, Good day, dear Dr. Burns. My name is Galena. My family came from the former USSR 26 years ago, including my husband, my 14-month-old son, and me. I'm a certified professional coach, and I have a BS in science, and she mentioned some of her degrees. I became a life coach to help people as my appreciation for all the miracles that God has performed for me and my family. Your book, Feeling Good Together, gave me some tangible knowledge that has changed my life forever. In addition to studying the Torah and reading books by Rabbi Pliskin and a number of other authors that she has found of inspiration. She says, in my coaching program from the Rufa Institute, I'm not familiar with that, I learned about you and bought almost all of your books. And then she mentions other people who have inspired her, Daniel Goleman and others as well. And she has a very general question. What's the best way for me to apply the knowledge and brilliant ideas that you share with us in my coaching? Can I see your live sessions? How can I get more of the wisdom like that you have? And what advice can you give me that I can become the best I can be in order to be the best mom, wife, sister, and most effective life coach? Let God bless you. With joy, Galena. Hope to hear from you soon. Well, thank you for that very kind email that you sent, and it's an honor to be compared with your other outstanding teachers who have inspired you. And I've made a little list of resources that would be available to you and other, hopefully, people watching this this broadcast who are interested in learning more about Team CBT and the various things I've been talking about and writing about in my books. Now, one thing that I hope to make available soon, I have a fabulous video of an actual therapy session with a colleague, Melanie, who was a member of my Tuesday group and was experiencing toxic shame that she'd been hiding for something about her life for 9 years. And I had a chance to make some videos with professional television photographers. And we made a beautiful video of a 2-hour session that was really life-transforming for Melanie and illustrates the entire process of Team CBT from start to finish. My two brilliant co-therapists were Angela Crum, clinical psychologist from the Feeling Good Institute in Mountain View, California, and also Jill Levitt, another clinical psychologist from the Feeling Good Institute and one of the teachers of my free weekly training group at Stanford for community therapists. So that's one resource, and I hope to open a store on my website, feelinggood.com, soon. I'm trying to learn how to do it, and then I'll be making this video available for anyone who would like to purchase it. And it comes with a DVD and also a booklet I wrote with exercises you can do as you read that video. That would be a good learning thing for you. Now, also, you've mentioned reading my book, Feeling Good Together. There's many of my books, as you know, that people can order on Amazon.com or any of the online booksellers. Another really good one for patient and for therapist I think, is my Feeling Good Handbook. A third resource is my Psychotherapy Ebook, which is called Tools, Not Schools of Therapy. And it's really how to do team therapy. There's chapters on the testing part of the model, chapters on the empathy part of the model, chapters on the paradoxical agenda setting, and chapters on all of the 50 methods. And one of the neat things about the Psychotherapy Ebook is that there are written exercises you can do as you're reading to develop the Team CBT skills. You can find order forms on my website, feelinggood.com, on the resources tab. So that's something that would be very, very helpful for you. Also, if you go to my workshops tab on my website, every year I do at least 2 4-day intensives. This summer I'll be doing one in Whistler, Canada, which is, I think, a resort area in Canada, and also at the South San Francisco Conference Center. We'll be returning there. Last year's San Francisco intensive was in Burlingame, but the San Francisco Conference Center, I decided, is a much better facility, and that's a tremendous thing if you have a chance to go to that. And I also do other workshops from time to time at various locations in the United States and Canada. Another free resource that I have are the Feeling Good podcasts that I do with my psychologist colleague, Dr. Fabrice Nye. And each week we go through one or another topics in Team CBT, and those are directed both for the patient, the client in therapy, as well as for the therapist yourself. And we've recorded more than 60 of them. And if you go to my website, feelinggood.com, or to iTunes, you can find the directory of all of them and start from the very start. And I try in every Feeling Good podcast to give not only talk about a technique, but also an inspiring or humorous vignette as well that brings that technique to life from someone who I've actually treated. I disguise identities, but I think that's really a good way to get a feel for how these new techniques work. And also, another invaluable thing, I hope I'm not carrying on too long here, but there's tremendous resources for those of you who want to learn. If you go to the www.feelinggoodinstitute, that's one word, .com, that's several of my colleagues in Mountain View, California have started the Feeling Good Institute. They have tremendous in-person and online training programs. And if you're serious about learning team, I would go to join one of the weekly online training programs. You can join from anywhere in the world, and they generally go an hour and a half or 2-hour weekly groups. They're reasonable in price, and they have great teachers. Mike Christensen has one. I think my colleague Matt may have a weekly online group. I know Jill Levitt is a fabulous teacher, and Angela Crum. They have a tremendous amount there. They also have a licensure program in Team CBT that many people sign up for, and it kind of structures the learning. One or two other quick things is that on my website also I have many free blogs, other free resources, tremendous reading on secrets of self-esteem, the worst errors that therapists make and how to avoid them, in addition to my weekly Feeling Good podcast. There's a lot there. And then finally, I believe if you want to become a great therapist, you have to do your own personal work. When I'm with somebody, like on a hike today, people said, I've got this problem or that problem. Someone was talking about public speaking anxiety, and sometimes, is it really true that you, David, used to have social anxiety and public speaking anxiety? And then I was able to give them a lot of examples, like of the first time I gave a lecture academically. It was the most humiliating disaster imaginable. My anxiety was so intense, I couldn't even sleep the night before, and my talk was, I imagined it to be horrible beyond belief, and the experience was even worse than that. And so I think when you can say to your clients, I know how you're struggling, I've been there myself, and I know the solution to that, and what a joy it's going to be to show you how to transform your life. I think that's a great message, but you can only give that message if you've done your own personal work. And so I would strongly recommend that anyone who is a therapist or wants to become a great therapist to do your own personal work, maybe with a team therapist, and experience that kind of personal transformation so you can bring that experience to the people you work with. Now I'm going to take a quick look and see who's here. Richard Agan is back. Thank you. Good to see you, Richard. Stephanie Islos. Hello, I saw you at the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference. Well, thank you. I just clicked the like button there. I'm glad you're here today. Lisa Kelly says the Melanie videos demonstrating Team CBT and other resources will be available soon on David's website online store. And then you mentioned that the books are available on Amazon, the ebook, and so forth. Thank you for that support. Now let's see, Klaus Straum. Hello, David. In Europe, it's around midnight. Okay, and your live session is a great way to get well tucked into bed. Yes, and if you're having trouble getting to sleep, I might just get hypnotic or boring and help put you to sleep. But you say, I mean this is a great compliment, and thank you. I sure appreciate that. Phil McCormick, love the 5 secrets and your podcast, and can't thank you enough for all your great work. Well, thank you for that, Phil. And when Fabrice returns, hopefully this week from his New Zealand, I haven't seen him for 5 weeks, we'll get on the stick and answer some of the questions that have come in based on the 5 secrets podcast, and also show how to integrate the 5 secrets of effective communication. John Kaskin is, hi there, I'm the guy who asked about panic attacks and job interviews. Well, if you like, then that was just one of the next questions that I was going to read here. Actually, let me see if I can find your question. Hold on just a second. I have a whole thick package of them. Now I can't see where I set it down. But essentially, you asked about what's the best way to deal with anxiety during job interviews, and there's what I would call the external solution and the internal solution. The external solution has to do with what are the most effective strategies for job interviewing, and most people really have the wrong idea, in my opinion, as how to give a really effective winning job interview. And I probably talked about it on podcast or previous Facebook broadcasts, but I'll allude to that at least briefly today. And also then there's the internal solution, which has to do with the inner dialogue that generates anxiety during job interviews. To deal with your inner anxiety, I would just refer to using the daily mood log that I talk about, say, in my book, When Panic Attacks, to sit down, and the upsetting situation might be job interview, and then you circle your negative emotions. You're anxious, you're ashamed, you're embarrassed, you're down, you feel inadequate, whatever, and then you write down your negative thoughts, and then identify the distortions in those thoughts, and then find a way to talk back to them using some of there are 40 methods described in the book when panic attacks, but that's so you're not generating your own intense anxiety, telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I've got to impress them, they probably have other better applicants, and things like that. Most social anxiety comes from 2 distortions that I call, and perhaps others as well have called, the Brushfire Fallacy and the Spotlight Fallacy. And the Spotlight Fallacy lurks behind most forms of social anxiety, and it's the idea that people are judging me, and I have to impress them. By saying something clever, saying something important, and this puts you under so much pressure, you kind of freeze up and come across in a very, very stilted way that's almost guaranteed to force the other person not to want to hire you. And then the Brushfire Fallacy is if one person rejects me, everyone will reject me. And to me, the secret of effective job interviewing is not so much to try to impress the other person, although to a certain extent you have to show them you have the qualifications and the background and the training. But the goal, in my opinion, in a job interview is to impress the interviewer with themselves, not with yourself. And I suggest doing some research on the person who's going to interview you, and ahead of time, and then you might say to them, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to meet you in person. I'm familiar with the paper you published on topic XYZ or the project you've been working on here at the firm. I was really impressed with the work you've been doing. Can you tell me where you're at on that project now? Tell me more about what you're doing. What's it like working here at this company? And say, I'm trying to find out, if I would be a good fit for you. What kind of person would you be looking for, and what's your idea of the kind of person who would fit in really well here at your firm? So the idea is to shine the spotlight on the other person, to express an interest in them. When I had my clinic in Philadelphia, the PhD students at University of Pennsylvania all wanted to rotate through my clinic, because they have to do what are called practicum trainings, where they'll spend 6 months or a year at some clinic to get practical therapeutic experience while they're studying to get their PhD degree. And the reason they wanted to be at my clinic is we were treating kind of general people in a private practice setting, whereas the other settings were like the VA hospital and working at clinics at the university, which were not as exciting to the students as treating real people in a private practice setting. And so we would accept one each year. And the way we did it is they would come and apply, and various people at my clinic, which was at the Presbyterian Medical Center, would interview them, and then they'd take the 3 best candidates and let me interview them to make the final selection. Well, it was interesting, and this could be an eye-opener for you and others who have to do job interviews. I had only one criterion in mind of who I would hire. Now, these were top PhD students at one of the top programs in the United States, University of Pennsylvania graduate school in clinical psychology, and so they're all super brilliant. They have all these achievements. They'd come in and try to impress me with themselves and talk about their research and all the things that they had done. I'd be sitting there thinking, oh gosh, why can I get this person out of my office? This is so boring to me. And that's the error that people make in job interviews, is trying to impress them. The idea that the person with a job interview who's interviewing you is going to be interested in you is partially a huge myth, to tell you the truth. And there's only one criterion that I was looking for, and then someone would come in and say, I'm just so glad to meet you because I read your book Feeling Good, and it changed my life, and that's why I went into clinical psychology. Or some of them would say, I'm so glad to meet you. My mother read your book, Feeling Good, The New Mood Therapy, and it cured her of depression. She got over her depression, and it's such an honor to meet you. And then I would say, this is the person I want. You see, the person I wanted at my clinic was the person who expressed an interest in me. And so this is the opposite of that spotlight fantasy, where the person with social anxiety thinks the spotlight's on you. You have to dance like you're on stage and impress the other person. And people hate it generally when you try to impress them with yourself. It is a very boring and not a very fruitful undertaking. But if you learn to express an interest in the other person, to show yourself to be a genuinely warm and friendly and fun person to interact with, a good team member, that's the most powerful method I ever developed to help people with job interviewing, and I would say that this technique is not only effective, but if done skillfully, it's incredibly effective. Now, here's another question I have. Then I'll get to some of yours. I haven't listened to all of your podcasts yet, but I haven't come across one where the client is completely new to CBT. Would it be possible for you to conduct a series where you take the client from scratch, introducing the concepts and thought distortions all the way through to the end of treatment? Generally right now, because I'm not in private practice and don't have malpractice insurance, I'm only doing teaching in the context, for the most part, of teaching therapists who are in training, because then it's not, the work I do isn't thought of as therapy, but as a part of the training experience. But I have worked throughout my career. I've had 35,000 therapy sessions with individuals who are new to the therapy, and I would say that they're just as easy to treat. The reason I wrote Feeling Good, the new mood therapy, was so my patients could learn on their own some of the basic concepts like cognitive distortions, so I would more individualize the treatment for them. But I've never found a problem with explaining the concepts to my patients. Last week, someone had asked, what are the podcasts? And I couldn't get the correct dates, and my colleague Lisa couldn't get the correct dates either. But there are two so far showing a complete course of treatment of someone with Team CBT. The first one was Mark, who felt like a failure as a father, and that's podcast number 29. And if you go to my website and go to the blog tab, and then underneath that there's 5 blogs that I publish, and one are the Feeling Good podcasts, and you can just go to there and then go down backwards till you come to number 29, which was March 27th, 2017, and that's a single session, which is essentially a complete course in treatment with Mark to get over feeling like a failure. It's one of the most common thoughts that triggers depression and shame and guilt and anxiety. It was a beautiful session, and I think you'd enjoy that one. And also, if you pick them up on iTunes, you can see the whole directory there. But anyway, that's podcast 29. And then the first series with Marilyn was podcast 49, The Dark Night of the Soul, and that was August 7th, 2018, or 2017, August 17th, and there were several with Marilyn who had a diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer, and then she had a complete elimination symptoms, and then we did a tune-up again with Marilyn, which was podcast 59 on October 26, 2017, when she had a painful metastasis to one of her ribs, and the depression and anxiety returned, and we did some relapse work there. So those would be good ones. And then when I get the live therapy with Melanie, I think also would be great for learning. Let's see if we have questions here. Here's David Mitchell with a question. Oh, here's John. Hi, John. We missed you on the hike today, but it's been great to hear from you. And you say great point about the internal versus external game for interviews. Thank you for that, John. David Mitchell says, what is your policy in relation to treating patients and clients that are addicted to drugs and or alcohol? Do they have to be in an addiction program before accepting them into therapy, or do you require them to be off drugs and alcohol for a determined period of time? Well, it depends on the severity of the addiction. There's several parts to Team CBT, and I've published in the Feeling Good podcasts about how to use Team CBT for people with addictions. And for many people with milder addictions don't have to be in any kind of treatment program other than, coming to me or whoever their Team CBT therapist is. For example, procrastination is an addiction. Overeating can be viewed as an addiction. And, people with milder problems, I've successfully treated many as outpatients. However, if a patient is very, very severe, I may require them to be in a 12-step program or some weekly or even daily support group for addictions. And there are many excellent. There's AA, there's Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. There's a lot out there. And sometimes I've told patients with really severe addictions, AA or Smart Recovery, and any weekly or even daily training program you want, they can give you something I can't give you, which is a sponsor, daily meetings. They can give you all kinds of support, but I can give you highly specialized skills and tools that they don't have. And so if we work together, it's 1 + 1 = 3. And occasionally I have said to patients, if you want me to work with you, you must agree to give up alcohol or whatever the thing is and get into one of these support groups. I had a young man I worked with in Philadelphia who I had a tremendous relationship with. He was in AA, he was severely depressed, and he came to me, and he remained in AA, and I worked with him with what we then called CBT, Cognitive Behavior Therapy, which was before we had team available, but it was still very powerful, and we did a great job and probably met for 10 or 12 or 14 sessions, and he had a complete recovery. His symptoms disappeared, and improved his love life and his self-esteem. He had a good career in some financial, area or other, and I discharged him, and then he came back for a tune-up several years later, and he had gotten back into drinking and had dropped out of AA, and he was drinking at a very, very severe level. I think it was like, more than a quart a day of gin or vodka or whatever he was drinking, and he was also become depressed again, and of course his love life had deteriorated again. And he was asking for help, and I want to emphasize that I like the guy tremendously, and I believe he thought a lot of me as well, and we had great rapport. I always get perfect empathy scores from him, perfect helpfulness scores. But I told him, I said, I know my limits as a human being, and I have powerful tools, but they're not all powerful. And if you want to keep drinking, I believe that I don't have the power to change your life, to make your depression disappear, to improve your love life, and you're going to have to make a choice if you want to work with me, and I hope you will. You're going to have to go back to AA, and initially it's going to have to be every day, not just once a week, because you're into the alcohol thing so deep right now. And sadly, he decided he wanted to stick with the drinking, so he dropped out of therapy. And then occasionally one has to even go further into a coercive type of therapy. My dear friend and colleague, Stephen Fleiterer, was in my Tuesday training group at Stanford for years, and he had been in AA himself for a number of years and decided he wanted to become a therapist and become an interventionist. And he now has a company in San Francisco, I believe he calls it SF Intervention or something like that, and he does terrific work, but sometimes he has to go and work with people really in the gutter, teenagers often, who are really on the verge of death, and really do interventions and really almost kind of coerce them into therapy, and sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes that can be necessary and life saving as well. And Shalene Dobbs here. Hi, Shalene, I'm going to like you here. Also, Josh Kaskin, I'm going to like you. I don't even know what liking is, but doesn't sound like a bad thing. I'm just so old fart-like, I don't even understand most of the social media stuff. I'm trying to get slightly less unhip. But anyway, Charlene has a great question. So do you think that someone can completely heal themselves from anxiety, even if it's them working alone on their own? I have When Panic Attacks book, and I'm wondering if I can do it alone. I've been in therapy, but the 3 therapists I've tried just want to put me on meds and aren't as willing to do full CBT. Okay, well, that's a great question. Shailene, I've mentioned before on my Feeling Good podcasts and other contexts that when I wrote the book, When Panic Attacks, I noticed that I myself had 11 different anxiety disorders. And I apologize if you've heard this and I'm repeating myself. And then after the book was published, I noticed 6 or 7 more. So I've had 16 or 17 forms of anxiety that I've healed myself from. Fear of bees, fear of vomiting. I've had 5 different kinds of social anxiety, fear of blood. Just the list goes on and on. And so I know that you can overcome completely these forms of anxiety. So the answer to that is yes. Now, once you've overcome a form of anxiety, you have to kind of keep after it, though. Let's say that you use exposure to overcome a fear. Then once you've overcome the fear, then you've got to keep doing the thing that you were afraid of. Like I mentioned earlier on the broadcast today, I used to have crippling public speaking anxiety. Now I make my living in part on public speaking. I used to have a terrible camera phobia. Here I am, I'm on camera, I'm smiling, I'm doing public speaking right now and loving it. But I do it all the time, and that keeps the anxiety gone. Now, I've had one form of anxiety among the 17 that I had that I cured myself of totally when I was young. That was the fear of heights, and I overcame it with the help of a high school teacher who had me stand on the top of a tall ladder for 15 minutes while he waited at the bottom until my fear disappeared, and it was very effective. And after that, I used to climb in the stage crew and plays there that they were putting on in the high school, and I'd go up and work on the ceiling and on the lights and on the curtains, and I just loved heights. And then I had summer construction jobs when I was in college, and I would go up, with a wheelbarrow full of cement or something, go up on this little elevator thing and push it across, these girders and things like that. Working way up at heights, it didn't bother me whatsoever. But then I went on, to college and graduate school, and I didn't have any reason to go up to any heights. It wasn't by intention. I wasn't exposing myself to the fear of heights anymore. I was, studying and doing other things, and then when my kids were like they were like 10 and 15, I took them one summer. My wife had to stay in Philadelphia and study for her. She was doing her PhD at Penn, and she had the examinations coming up, and she said, "Oh, you take the kids for spring break. I've got to stay here and study." So I took them to Arizona and took them where I used to go as a young man, down to Havasupai Canyon, and I used to stay with an Indian man down there. There was a tribe of Indians down there. It's about a 10-mile hike down a cliff and to get down there and to Havasupai Canyon. And I thought it would be great to go and visit where I used to go all the time when I was young, and we would go down, and there was this cliff we would go down to get to this blue-green waterfall where it was just it was like beautiful. The Havasupai means blue-green water people. And there was only 300 of them living down there. It was very remote, and it was such a joy to go down and to visit down there. And I befriended this fellow, Johnny Montoya, who was trying to become the medicine man, and he would invite me to go into the sweat baths and by the river. This river, there was this copper or something precipitated out of this river, so the bottom became like a swimming pool, like just blue green and real smooth, and the water was turquoise in color. It was beautiful. But at any rate, I went with my kids, and then they said, "Oh, let's go down this cliff, to this waterfall again. And as I got close, I realized that my fear of heights had returned. And I panicked, and I told the kids, I don't want to go near that cliff. You guys go down there, and I'll wait up here. And so I made the huge mistake of avoidance. And then my fear of heights came back, and it's still full-blown today. I haven't had any motivation to overcome it again, except when I'm jogging. I sometimes jog along kind of the edge of drop-offs to kind of overcome the fear of again. So I'm working on it a little. But that's the one thing. Yes, you can overcome anxiety, any form of anxiety, completely, in my opinion. Panic attacks, OCD, PTSD, generalized anxiety. And I've had a series of podcasts in addition to my book, When Panic Attacks, showing all these 4 models that I use in the treatment of anxiety. So thank you for that question. Oh, Phil is here. Phil Dudar. Oh, my gosh, Phil, I can't believe that you're here. That's wonderful. And you're here live this time. Oh, that is cool. So I'm liking Phil. Phil is a colleague of mine. We have to talk, Phil, about recent happenings, but I don't want to do them in this public setting here. But we have a few, it's been a bit of an exciting week from the point of view of some of our hobbies, and so we'll talk about that in another context. Charlene Dobbs, are you going to ever do a live therapy podcast treating someone with anxiety? Absolutely, yes. I hope to do many more podcasts, live therapy podcasts. I think that's the best. Now, one thing that I've been thinking about, too, is I've been contacted by a reality television show producer from one of the major networks, cable networks, who has some interest in a mental health reality TV show, and I've been talking to him about how cool it would be to do a weekly reality television show, maybe based on my Sunday hikes or based on working with people live, and then commenting on the work, take the highlights of the live work and turn into a show of some kind. I think it would be terrific. And then, we could be showing people every single week being treated for anxiety, for depression, for relationship issues. I hope it materializes. It's probably a long shot, but I've had several conversations with them, and it seems to be evolving a little bit. Something might happen, but if not, I'll certainly be doing more, as many as possible, on the Feeling Good podcast. I think is a good format for live work. Victoria Niederhofer. Hi, Victoria. I just liked you. Hi, Dr. Burns. Can you get training at the Team Institute? That's the FGI, Feeling Good Institute in Mountain View, and learn your methods if you're not licensed as a therapist, counselor, or psychologist. I'm really interested in learning and doing therapy, but wondering if there is any way to avoid going to, Seymour, going to school for some theories I might never use, instead cutting straight to the chase and learning from your methods. Could I use the tools and techniques if I were simply a life coach, for example? I just feel the methods are the best and don't want to waste time in school, but it may be unavoidable and perhaps even worthwhile. That's a great question, and I struggled with that with Stephen Fleiterer, actually, who he was trying to decide, should he become a certified therapist? In his case, he became a certified addiction counselor in California, which took about a year of study on his own, and he had to take some tests and so forth, or just become a life coach. And I can't answer that. My hunch is that the people at the Feeling Good Institute probably would require that to be going there and taking classes, and we have the same policy at Stanford. You have to be either a licensed therapist here in California, and you could have any kind. You could be a psychiatrist or marriage and family therapist or a school counselor, but some kind of licensed mental health professional or a graduate student. But the life coaching is another attractive option, just in the sense that you don't have to go and learn a lot of things you're never going to use. I can't really give you a good answer to that. You could check with the Feeling Good Institute, www.feelinggoodinstitute.com, and Feeling Good Institute, that's just one word. And ask them, see what their current policy is. I keep myself politically separate from them. I support them 200%, but I think because I created Team CBT, I shouldn't have any control or influence over what they're doing, because I don't want it to be political. I want them to do the things that they want to do. But you can check with them. They're tremendous, and they'll let you know what the policy is. And thank you, Milad, again for another kind comment. And Lana Amawi Hanain. Hi, Dr. Burns. Hi, Lana. I'm liking you. I'm liking Lupi here. Carranza. Thank you. As a coach, your guidance is priceless. Thank you. I appreciate your kind comments, and being a bit of a narcissist myself, anything you say by way of praise, I will eat up and really like and enjoy. But yes, I work hard, try to train people. I do a lot of volunteer work and trying hard to get the word out. And when some of you express some kind words, I always appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me. Hiroki Yano joined. Hi, Hiroki. And Adrian Barbero Rubio, hello to you. And Colleen Ryder, I'm going to like you. She found my book. Let's see. The comment you're trying to react was deleted. Try refreshing the page. Let's see. I'm supposed to... Really? Am I supposed to... Can you still hear me and everything? I'm not... It says refreshing the page. I don't know how to refresh this page. Can everyone hear me? Can Lisa or somebody tell me? Am I supposed to refresh this page? I don't even know if I'm still live with you. Oh, Phil, you are nowhere near being a narcissist. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. Yes, you can still hear me. Great. Mike Christensen is here. Oh, that is great. Now, see, Mike Christensen is one of the fabulous online trainers, and you can join his weekly group through the Feeling Good Institute, or maybe just go to Michael Christensen and S-E-N at the end, Christensen, who teaches a weekly online group from Canada. And I had to work hard to get Mike into the certification program and into the teaching role. He came to many of my workshops in Canada, and for several years, and I said, Mike, you're fantastic. You've got to start teaching. And but he is a very humble and kindly and tremendous individual, and he finally got the message and got into the certification program. And now, Michael, you're one of our most esteemed therapists and teachers. So do yourself a great favor if you want, and join one of Mike Christensen's introductory online groups. And here's someone else that says the comment was deleted. Maybe that was Colleen or somebody. Maybe someone didn't want to be recognized, so I apologize if I'm doing the wrong thing here. Let's see, Richard Agan. How can you tell when you've gotten as good as you are going to get? I can only tell you from my own personal experience working with patients and in my own personal life as well. But I when I'm doing therapy with people, I measure depression, anxiety, anger, and sometimes other clusters as well, before and after every single session, as well as positive feelings. And when someone has gone, say, my depression score goes from 0 to 20, and let's say someone has an 18 on that test, and they go to a 5, well, an 18 is extreme depression, and 5 is just borderline depression. You're just feeling slightly down, slightly worthless, slightly hopeless, slightly sad. slightly unmotivated. But a 5 is crappy, to tell you the truth. It's dramatically improved, but it's like your fever going from 104 to maybe 100.5. Well, that's a big improvement, but you've still got a fever. Most people want a 98.6. And that would be a 0 on the depression test. And when people have a 0 on the depression test, they're generally happy, and you wake up and you say it's great to be alive. Like on the hike today, I was working with this brilliant neurologist named Amir. And boy, he is a tremendous guy, and he's one of the top people in the world in this area of specialization, which is these horrible, fatal disorders that some unfortunate people get. I'm trying to think of the name. It's like the name after some Lou Gehrig's disease and things like that. He treats some of the most awful disorders, and he works here in the local Kaiser system. But he is just a tremendously brilliant and skillful and compassionate physician, also a very warm and delightful fellow. And we were talking on today's hike how when you give up the idea that you have a self that's supposed to be so special. See, he was saying today, before I started coming on your hikes, I always thought I had to be special, and I tried to be the top person in my university and number one. I'm trying to be the number one neurologist in the world. He probably is in his area. But he said, because I thought I had this self that was supposed to be so special. And then on one of the hikes, and he sent me the recording of it if I had time to edit it. He actually, his enlightenment was recorded on a hike where he suddenly discovered that he had no self, that it wasn't important to be, number one. It's important to love your work and to do a great job and to love healing people and helping people and supporting them and to take pride in your accomplishment. But to think that that's going to mean his self is somehow superior or special, he finally saw through that there is no self, that it's a nonsensical and very self-defeating thing. And he said it was like freeing, like being born again. We were just talking on today's hike how great it was. It's like it doesn't get better than this. We're just hanging out with friends. We're hiking. We're doing healing as we hike along the trails. And it's just like a celebration. But nobody's feeling better than anybody else. It's like when you give up yourself, you inherit the world. And so that's my concept of it, that it's a state of intense joy and intimacy and openness and connection with other people. But no one's entitled to be that way all the time. You're not entitled to 100% happiness. We all fall out of enlightenment. And we were talking also, he says every now and then he gets, has a day, a month when he feels down and is this bad and he doesn't know why. And I said, that happens to me every now and then too. I feel like sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll think, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart. There's all these horrible things and it seems so real. And I go back to sleep and I wake up in the morning. I can't even remember what all those horrible things were. So I have down days. Things happen that hurt my feelings. People criticize me and sometimes it rolls off my back and sometimes it kind of eats away at me and I start to feel like I'm not good enough. The same traps we all fall into. And I just tell myself, David, you're feeling down today and in 2 or 3 days, you're going to be happy and roaring and excited to go again. And then I say, oh, no, that can't be. I feel so down. This is the truth about me. I really am a worthless person or something like that. And I say, come on now. That's a lot of BS. And then a day or so later, I'm just so filled with joy again. So I don't even try to fight those things anymore because I just know that they're going to be short-lived, but it's a part of life. I always say we're happy to 5 happy days per week and 2 miserable days. And I've said this over and over again. And if you don't have your 5 joyous, happy days, you need a tune-up. You need to pull out the daily mood log and see what the thoughts you're giving yourself, those distorted thoughts that are pulling you down. And if you don't have your 2 miserable days per week, your irritable days, your off days, then you're getting too happy, and we're going to have to put you on lithium, because it's just a part of the human experience that we're not entitled to be happy all the time. And if we could, I don't think I would even want it. I think the contrast between the highs and the lows, the joys and the moments of self-doubt, is that color, that contrast is what makes for the richness of life. But if you go into a negative zone and you're there all the time and you're not having your share of the joy and happiness, then if you want to get better, if you would want a greater happiness, then I would be so eager to show you how to go in that direction. And here's Elise Munoz, who has one of our Feeling Good Institutes in New York City, and quite a successful one. It's great to be here with you online. Well, it's great to talk to you here. I wish we had two-way talking. I suspect we'll get it one of these days. But the one-way thing is better than nothing at all. And you say, thanks for your time and sharing with all of us. Well, it's my pleasure, Elise. And Colleen Ryder, I found your books at my local used bookstore. And I need my depression score of 18 to leave so I can have the energy to read it. Okay, pray that happens soon. I pray that happens soon as well, Colleen. Yeah, and Dwight Swabach is back again. It's great to see you each Sunday, Dwight. Thank you. Dominic Rolla, you did a wonderful job simplifying back, and it works perfectly. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we all have strengths, and we all have faults and weaknesses, and my list of faults and weaknesses is pretty long. But one of my strengths, I think, is to simplify things and write things in ways that people can understand. I've always just enjoyed that, doing that. And when I was in college, I always loved the teachers who could make complicated things very, very simple. That to me was a quality I really admired and have aspired to. And Jason Pink says, you're a nut, and I must totally agree with you, Jason. I don't know who you are or how you figured that out so fast. Most people have to know me a little longer before they realize what a nut I am, but you're right. John Kaskin, you're often referenced in Wobot's artificial intelligent robot discussions. Oh, what do you think of using that kind of technology to treat anxiety and depression? If I could get someone to partner with me, I think we could easily create an electronic version of what I do that would be tremendously helpful to people and would be available to people around the world. I'm not a technology nut. I've written the programs in Microsoft Word. I mean, I know how I would make them work, but I don't have the support at the moment to create what I want to create. And if I had a chance to work with some high-tech individuals, I think we could blow the whole field of mental health apart and create, the mental health of the future. I try hard to train human therapists, and I'm often despondent that it's very difficult to train therapists for a whole lot of reasons. But the neat thing about training a computer is they'll do what you tell them to do, and I think that tremendous things could be done. I know a lot of people have tried to create online programs. I don't think they're terribly good, but I would love to have the chance to create something and try to knock the ball out of the park, which would give me a lot of joy. Let's see. But anyway, I didn't know I was referenced in Wobart's artificial intelligence robot discussions. That's kind of cool. Um, and then Tamara Williams, I've liked you, Colleen. I'm going to like you, Colleen. Have you ever done telephone sessions for patients out of your area? Well, right now, I'm not in clinical practice, but when I was in practice, I often did telephone sessions when people would go on vacation or something, and something would come up and they'd need a tune-up. And I just schedule a regular session, and I found the telephone sessions were as effective, if not more effective, than the sessions in person. And now when we got Skype and things like that, I totally believe that online live therapy would be every bit as good as inpatient therapy. Unfortunately, there's legal limitations. Like, for example, if you're in California and you're licensed as a psychologist in California or a psychiatrist or whatever, then you're not allowed to treat people in Utah or Arizona. You're only supposed to treat people where you're licensed, and so I think that's a bit of a limitation. I hope that gets addressed. I'll tell you one kind of shameful thing. Do you want to hear something shameful about my online therapy? Yes, I see many of you saying yes. Raise your hands. Okay, I see all the hands going up. Actually, I can't see you at all. I'm just BSing. But one of the interesting things, I remember a couple times I had live phone sessions with patients who were like on vacation in some other state, and right after lunch. And so I would be listening to them and they'd be talking, and I'd start getting real sleepy. That's terrible to admit this, but this happened 2 or 3 times. And I started actually dozing off, but still holding the phone to my ear. And then they would say, "Well, what do you think of that, Dr. Burns?" And I'd say, "Oh, well," I'd wake up and I'd say, "Oh, well, tell me more. That sounds very important. I really want to hear how you're feeling." And then they keep talking. And then at the end, in every case, they said, "Oh, Dr. Burns, this is so much better than the face-to-face session because you were listening so much better today." So there's my shameful secret about working online. Well, the time has come to 4. And so I want to thank all of you for coming, and Jennifer Marie, I'm going to like you here. I didn't get to your question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Jennifer, sounds like you had a good question that would take a little time to address about getting out of the house and connecting with people more, and sometimes nerves and anxiety gets in the way, and that's sad to hear. And also, some of you who are into shyness and anxiety, I've gotten a lot of questions about that, and my 2 best resources on shyness, social anxiety, are my book Intimate Connections, which is all about shyness and dating and connecting with other people, as well as there's a chapter in my book, The Feeling Good Handbook, I think an excellent chapter on shyness and how to connect with people. And then also I have a whole book on nervousness and anxiety when panic attacks, one of my most recent books, and I think those would all be excellent resources for those of you who would like to connect better with other people and who feel some social anxiety. So thank you everybody for coming, and have a wonderful week, and I look forward to chatting with you again at this weekly Facebook broadcast. So thank you so much, and thank you also Lisa Kelly for making this this possible, and full of all of your help and energy. So thank you so much, and I'll say goodbye, and have a terrific week. Bye bye.